small Bika sini. So we can say hello to everybody. So just here. Okay, so selamat malam semuanya. Welcome to the launch party for the latest Thomas Pheasant collection for Baker Furniture. This event is definitely our biggest one since the pandemic started in 2020. My first trip during the pandemic was to the US in fall 2022 to view Tom's new collection. Emmanuel, Baker's territory manager for Europe, Asia, and the Pacific, promised me an all-new 60 pieces collection that will take my breath away. You did say that. So I arrived at Baker's showroom. I told Emmanuel I will walk around on my own. Then I go through the whole showroom and wrap Tom's area for Baker and Maguire the last. I stepped into Maguire's space and I was wowed. Mind you, over the last 2.5 years, everything is done through Zoom. So I never see anything in person until the goods arrive in Jakarta. Then I stepped into Tom's Baker space, and as promised, and perhaps more, it took my breath away. It was a new departure, and yet very much Tom. A contemporary aesthetic, and yet imbued with his well-known classical lines, elegant sensitivity, and also stylish as the man himself. Each piece is so uniquely Tom and invites you to look and just enjoy them. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Emmanuel, Baker Furniture's territory manager for Europe, Asia, and Pacific. So take it away, Emmanuel.
Selamat malam. I hope it's good in Indonesia. I hope you can hear me well. It's a long time that we are working with Bika, and we are very happy to be represented with Karina and Bika. As a territory sales manager for Asia, I've been several times in Jakarta and in Indonesia, which is, I can say that, my favorite country in Asia. I have been to your country several times, and I literally love Indonesia and Indonesia. Baker has a very long history of collaboration with Bika, and we are delighted to be partner to present the last collection of Thomas Pheasant, which is a celebration of the 20 years anniversary of our collaboration with Thomas, who designed so much beautiful collection for us. And I wanted to also thank you, Thomas, for that. So maybe we will go through Jay as well, who is our Vice President of Sales at Baker, and he will introduce you a little bit more about, he will say a little words about Baker and the history of Baker, because this is such an important history for us and for our customers.
Great, thank you, Emmanuel. Good evening, and thank you for hosting us. One of the things that I want to kind of just talk about Baker before we introduce Tom is the idea that Baker Maguire has had a long history of producing furniture and home furnishings. We're over 130 years old, and you don't get that way by just doing things. You really have a long heritage, and it really started with Hollis Baker in 1925 when he inherited the company. One of the things that's been continuous for the last 100 years is the idea that our company is based on design and quality, and that really was Mr. Baker's mantra. He wanted to make things that he would be proud of, that he would want to own himself. And while he's long gone, that idea of quality and design has still been the foundation of our company for all these years. And that extends all the way to people like Tom Pheasant. And again, his longevity, being with our company more than 20 years now, that is a testament to not only the collaboration between the two companies, but his relevance in the marketplace for design. So, and you probably know a lot of this, but I'm just going to say real quickly that Tom has been with us, I think this is our 21st year with our company. He's a Washington, D.C. based designer, internationally known projects around the world. celebrated by Architectural Digest and many other publications. Some of his projects like the Hay Adams Hotel in Washington D.C., as well as Blair House, which is basically the guest house for the White House for the U.S., and many other projects around the world. So again, the idea that the tenure, the 20 years is a very important aspect. When things are right, they last, and we're very proud of our relationship with Tom all these years. And with that, you're here to hear Tom. So Tom, I'm going to give it to you now. So welcome.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you all for coming and inviting me to your showroom today, or this evening. It's a very proud moment for me when I think about longevity and my career. While I've been at Baker for over 20 years, I actually have had my business just over 40, which is, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that I can say that, but it's been a blessing and it's been wonderful. But when Baker came to me in 2001 to perhaps do a collection for 2002, at first it was funny. It's a great story for me and a lesson, because first I said no, because I was very busy as an interior designer, and I respected Baker very much, but I thought they were going to be kind of a big company that would basically inhibit my creative spirit, and that I would be working under guidelines that might not be as creatively free. But after meeting with the group from Baker in Chicago, I was so impressed with the company, and I agreed to do the first collection. They had come to me because of my sort of touch, my relationship with classical architecture and the publicity that I had gotten through editorial. And so I took what I knew and what they were looking for, and we created the first collection. And for me, it was a big learning curve, because I had done many interiors, and I had certainly designed custom pieces for my projects, but I had never worked commercially and created a collection all at once. And Baker handheld me through that first collection. As it turned out, that collection was tremendously successful, which led to the next one, which led to the next one, which led to the next one. And the beauty of this relationship has been, as a designer, when I look back, I can open up every catalog from 2002 to the most recent, and it's really a little bit of my own story. And I see, when I look at like the collection from 2002, I can remember what projects I was doing, what was interesting to me at the time, and I see my own growth, and I see it reflected in my interiors that I'm doing for private clients, and I can see that parallel change happening with Baker. And I'll say that, Baker has given me, with each collection, the freedom to redefine where I am at every given collection. So I think that the latest collection is interesting to me, because I had 2 years before, we had launched the new collection for McGuire. And McGuire is a little unique, because that collection is unique for me, because while it has all of the classical principles and the elements that I use in creating, the project was totally influenced by a recent trip that I had taken to Japan, and I had never been. And I was so taken by the beauty of the culture and how that culture is in every aspect of life, whether it's modern or historical, whether it's food, fashion, interiors, architecture, garden, landscape. And so I came back from that trip just so inspired by what I had seen. And I took all of that inspiration and poured it into that collection from McGuire. When I did the recent collection for Baker, it was a little bit different. That is sort of like this continuous thread of my vocabulary. It's kind of, every collection is kind of a showcase of where I am and what I've learned. It's a little bit like creating a building. Each floor is under construction, and each floor represents a moment. And that moment allows you the foundation to build the next floor and the next floor. And the beauty that when I talk to students, I always say, you have to build your foundation early in your career. You have to kind of set your vocabulary and discover who you are and allow yourself that strong foundation so that you can build year after year and create longevity. Because once you find that vocabulary, it will take you a lifetime to refine it. And to me, that is the beauty of the creative arts, whether it's architecture, design, painting, is that, and I've certainly been fortunate that through my career, I've had vehicles like Baker and McGuire, incredible list of clients and projects that I've done, who basically give me these platforms to, build that creative energy and take it, see it moving. And I think it's a personal reward here now at this part of my career. I'm always looking forward to the next project. I'm looking forward to the next collection for Baker. I can't tell you what it's going to be because I'm not in it yet, but it might be something that, that happens to me next month that changes my point of view a bit, and it'll be reflected. So, and the same thing happens with my projects. The projects that I'm doing now, I couldn't have done 10 years ago because I haven't had those 10 years of experience and discoveries. So, anyway, I'm very delighted to have you all in the showroom and to have my pieces from my new collection there for you to see.
Wow, thanks so much, Tom. We didn't have a talk in that corner of the Baker showroom, but this is what is an eye opener, especially because we have so many interior designers who are attending the event tonight, and some product designers. I think that's such like a, what do you call it there, like a Zen koan in reference to Japanese, to like really build up your floors from ground up. I invited a few people to just have some questions.
Wonderful.
One is one lady and two gentlemen. Oh no, two ladies and one gentleman.
Okay.
So Santi is the first one, ladies first, I guess. She's a designer, quite a famous one.
Fantastic.
So she'll shoot the first questions then.
I don't. I mean, like, I'm your fan, and I think one of the first pieces mirror.
Oh, I'm sorry, I lost the sound for a moment.
Repeat.
I know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think I've been a big fan of your work since back then, maybe since the beginning of your time when you were designing for Baker.
Thank you.
One of my favorite pieces was the constellation mirror. It was one of your early pieces for Baker.
Yes.
Right?
One of the first.
Yeah, the first one. I saw it in the showroom, the Chicago showroom in Chicago, the Baker. So it was a while back. So I have a question. First of all, congratulations for the 20 years working together with Baker. And this collection is a huge one. I know how it is, how long it takes to make one big collection like this. And it's truly a remarkable milestone. Could you please share insight into the evolution of your approach to harmonizing classical and modern elements in your work?
Sure, of course. Okay, yeah. First, I want to say one quick thing about the constellation mirror. When I did the first collection, the focus that what Baker had asked was the focus for like sort of modern visions of classical design, okay, which what I love to do. So during the process of putting the collection together, I had this idea for this mirror, and I went to Baker and I said, I would love to do this mirror for the collection. And the Baker group that was helping me, which was, great. They said, well, Tom, yeah, it's beautiful, but, we don't sell a lot of these kinds of pieces. So we think maybe we'll do one for the showroom for your opening of the collection, but we probably won't be, because of the price and the cost to make, it won't be a big seller. So I love to tell that story because it became an iconic piece for that collection, and really a kind of iconic piece. It continues to pop up in interiors, and it's been copied by so many companies. But the important story for the designers and architects in the showroom is, you know, when you really believe in something, and you may not, it may be a difficult idea, or maybe your client isn't sold. It's really great that you can find ways to make things happen, and you have to be your own, you know, representative. So I really pushed for that mirror. It turned out to be very fortunate for me and for Baker. But I think it's you know, a lot of designers come to me and they say, well, it must be easy for you because, you know, you're well known and your clients let you do anything you want, and I'm a young designer and my clients are not so open. Well, I think, you know, finding ways, I think it's important for us as creative people to find ways to infuse our most creative spirit into what we do. And so sometimes you have to be your advocate to make things happen. But getting back to your main question, you know, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I was surrounded at an early age with classical architecture, and it became very much a part of my DNA. I mean, the elements and the principles of classical design are still very deep rooted in everything I do. Personally, as a designer, my personal quest is that kind of redefining my own work in a way of simplicity. And, you know, I think there is such beauty in minimalism and taking ideas and purifying them down to just what is necessary, whether it's a whole space, whether it's a sofa, a table. And so as my work progresses and as my collection with Baker progresses, I try to bring that idea of stripping things down to the essential. But I'm not leaving those classical principles that have been my foundation. So, you know, silhouette, form, the relationship of a physical piece, whether it's a table or a chair, how it relates to us as human beings, simplicity, balance, all of these things, you know, I never let go of them. If I let go of them, then I'm gonna, you know, lose myself, you know, in that journey. So I think there are things, and I think there's things that, you know, classical principles are centuries old, but they were principles that were defined by the relationship of man to the world around him. And we are still the human beings, and we still have a human perspective. So those beautiful values that are such a part of history and classical architecture, they still work. It's just, I'm not interested in replication. I'm interested in inspiration, and I'm interested in taking what I know and evolving them. And so, you know, looking at the sofa behind you is the perfect example. I think about one of the first sofas I did for my first Baker collection. It's a beautiful sofa and a beautiful silhouette, but it was tufted and it had pillows and it had cushions. And it's just, this is a perfect example of taking the same ideas and just simplifying the form to create something that's luxurious and comfortable. So, you know, and that's about, you know, as a designer and as a creative person, you know, finding that foundation, that vocabulary that is comfortable inside you, and allowing yourself a whole future to refine it. I think that's one of the most beautiful gifts a designer or architect can give to themselves.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All designers, I guess, just stripping everything to be more simpler and makes sense.
Right. It's hard. And, you know, simplicity is not easy. It is very hard. It is very hard.
No.
And it's very humbling. I mean, I feel, you know, that's the other thing is like, I say it takes a lifetime to refine it. I know personally, there aren't enough years ahead of me to get to that ultimate end, but how beautiful to have the will and the desire to just keep keep evolving, keep trying, keep experimenting. And also, failure is not really failure. I mean, failure is a learning lesson. So, I think the worst thing we can have as designers is fear, that fear of failing. It just works against us as human beings. So I think you go out there, and I think you have to be your best critic. If you fail, you should be the first one to say, nope, that didn't work. And then you move on and learn, So it can be expensive, but it's good. It's good to try. It's very good to try.
Never wrong to try first, okay, right?
That's right.
Okay. So I'm up to the next question. Do you have any favorite creative figures like artists, designers, or architects? You have any
Oh,
favorite?
yeah. Well, that's I get asked that a lot. There are so many incredibly talented people that inspire me. Sometimes their work inspires me. Sometimes their ability to create incredible things inspires me. But when I started, people like John Russell Pope, who's a classical architect, he designed a lot of famous buildings in the U.S. He had a modern classical vision for the time. And he really inspired me in the beginning, and architects and designers who were doing that kind of work. Now I tend to look toward artists like Richard Serra, who is a minimalist sculptor. I mean, I just, to me, the ability for an artist to take a simple material and turn it into poetry is the ultimate form of art. And so, I try to, as much as I can, I try to visit modern galleries, look at artists, look at what artists are doing, and try to absorb some of the content of what they're expressing. And I think that inspires me a lot. But I mean, there's so many. Interesting enough, I was in Spain this summer, and I stayed at a beautiful hotel in Madrid, and it was done by a Spanish interior designer, Lorenzo Castillo. And I knew of his work. He's very much the opposite of me. He's very much about decoration and lots of patterns and lots of color. But and it was funny. People said, "Oh, you must have had it must have been like disturbing to be in such a decorated space." But it was the opposite. I saw so much beauty in what he does, and I was so comfortable. It isn't what I would do, but I know that his work, there are things about his work that are lingering in my brain, and I will translate them into my vocabulary. But I think the other thing, as a creative person, I think you need to be open to other cultures and other designers' work. Whether you like, sometimes it's good just to, if you see something that you don't understand, take a moment and invest in that to see if you can capture something, because that knowledge is power, and that knowledge will only increase your abilities and your creative talents. And again, it's about inspiration, not about replicating. So I think it's hard to name. Oh my God, the list of designers that I respect and admire are endless. So.
And actually enjoy other people's work, right? Because it's something new that you never experienced before. I think I have to say. Okay, I think the last question. So, how much time did it take for you to do this collection? Because it's a big collection. And is there any unrealistic challenges you encountered along the way you don't mind sharing?
Well, I think the challenges are, again, every day is a challenge, right? But I think for doing a collection, there's a couple. The greatest challenges just from the beginning are there's so much furniture being introduced each year at markets internationally, and how do you create things that are new? I mean, really, I mean, it's sort of like how many ways are there to design a sofa or a lamp or a table? And the interesting thing, and again, the challenge of working with a commercial company or a company like Baker is obviously they're in business, right? We want to sell furniture. We don't want to create objects that are admired and left in the showroom. So, trying to balance my what I want to say creatively with something that will be successful business-wise for the showroom owners and for the Baker company and for myself. So I think that's kind of a challenge. I also think that you have to, not every piece can be for everyone, right? So you have to, one of the challenges is limiting, there's only so many pieces you can produce. So you have to kind of like commit to that vocabulary, commit to your design, and just keep going, because one of the most enjoyable things to me about doing a collection is once the creative part is done in our studio, is going to the factory and doing the product review and seeing the prototypes and being very critical. I'm probably, I'm my worst critic. And I think that's helpful. And for instance, the sofa, what feels good on a man who's 6 foot and what feels nice on a person who's 5 foot, our bodies are different. So what might be comfortable for one person is not comfortable for the next. So when we're doing the review, sometimes there might be 3 or 4 people in the room while I'm reviewing the prototypes, and we're all different. And so what might be comfortable for me might not be comfortable for the next person. So it's kind of thinking, those are challenges because you have to commit. And then committing to finishes, like, oh my gosh, I'll do the table in the light wood finish, but somebody's going to come in and go, oh, I like dark wood. So, okay, but you have to commit. So I think for me, that's the most challenging part. Typically it takes anywhere from a year to 18 months to do a collection, which is very fast. And what was really amazing about McGuire that collection was done during the pandemic. So I would, it was very atypical. So much was done through Zoom and FaceTime and computer images, emails. And so when we finally got the prototypes to the factory in North Carolina, I was so relieved because creating at that kind of distance was not enjoyable. It worked, and the beauty is it worked out perfectly. But the other thing about the pandemic is, just like this Zoom call, we've learned how to connect with so many people in using some of these things to help us. And it's been, it can be a great tool, but there's nothing like being there. Like, I wish I was there with you and shaking your hand and talking and engaging, but you know what, this is the next best thing. So
thank you so much for your insight, Tom. Okay, so I think I'm gonna pass the mic to the next person.
The next person, yeah, exactly. Next one is Putra, and he's actually editor, right? Editor-in-chief from the Interior Design Magazine, Jakarta. So Putra, Tom.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It's such a nice having your design here in Jakarta. And I might ask you some questions. And the first question is, after 2 decades of collaboration with Baker, how do you define your design journey at present?
How do I think? Where am I going?
Yeah. Your design journey, your thinking process, your ideas together, or something like that.
Yeah, it's I think the projects that I'm working on currently are kind of guiding my course in creative design, where right now I'm working on a project where we're designing the architecture and all of the furnishings and the interior. And it's the concept of the house is kind of an aspirational modern classical dream. And I'm creating something that is all of my history distilled into, as I was saying earlier, this simplified vocabulary. So I think that right now, for me personally, that sort of journey into refining and simplifying is what's really motivating my creative energy right now. And like I said earlier, it's difficult. I mean, there's a fine line between simplicity and boredom. You know, something that how do you create something that is simple yet fulfilling, you know, visually? How can you create something, whether it's architecture or whether it's a piece of furniture that stands strongly on its own and can hold somebody's interest, you know, for time, not just a moment. So, you know, those are the personal challenges that I have, and that's kind of where I'm going in my studio here in Washington. So,
Okay. And the second question, your fondness for classical architecture imbues an aristocratic flair as well as elegant style into Baker and McGuire religion. How do you blend the classical style with modern touches to ensure that your religion remains timeless and in their design?
oh, I'm sorry, you cut out. I didn't hear the question.
Okay. How do you blend the classical style with modern touches to ensure that your religion remains timeless in their design?
How do I combine the elegant
Yes.
style with the classic? I don't know. It's so much a part of my DNA now, and but I think when I was a very young designer and being in Washington, it's a very traditional city. It's changed a lot now, but initially when I first started, people were not hiring modern creative designers. There was pretty much a strong need for traditional interiors. And what happened was I was a young designer and I started getting some new clients that loved tradition, but wanted something new. And I think that foundation of starting with tradition and then evolving slowly, I think the elegant history of design, again, is kind of an important thing to understand. And I think you can take that, or what I try to do is take that history and just move it forward. So I don't know, when you discuss refinement and sophistication, and, you know, it is such a subjective concept, right? So I think that what I'm very happy about is that in the world out there of design, I have a following that is large enough to allow me to grow as a designer, and that I have enough clients who recognize what I do. One of the first questions I always ask when a new client comes to me that I don't know, the first question I ask them is, why did you call me? Why did you reach out to me? Because I want to understand what they see in my work, you know, because there's kind of whether they've seen something that they admire, but it's not for them, that's fine. But I want to be on the same plane with the client. I want them to appreciate what I do and push me to the next level, right? So if a client comes to me and they said, oh, a friend told me you're very good, that's not a very appealing reason for me, you know, because they don't know what I've done. And so, you know, I just like that connection. And I have clients who are traditional and clients who are modern. The traditional ones think, oh, Tom can do anything, but his traditional work is the best. And then I have the modern clients who think, Tom can do traditional, but his modern is the best. But I think what it is being able, and now this is being the business of interior design. This is about being creative, but knowing how to guide the interior that best suits your client, using your own vocabulary, right? So, so that bridge between, you know, classical tradition and classical modern, there is definitely a bridge there. It's just knowing how to use it personally and for your clients. You know.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I give back to
Sure.
Karina. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Thank you so much.
So the last one,
Okay.
another lady. Her name is Tasha, and she's from Prestige, which is like a lifestyle magazine, I guess.
Ah, welcome. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Okay, actually, I have two questions. And first question is, you are known as the master of the neutral color. Tell us how these neutral colors came to be your signature style, and what is compelling about this use in your perspective.
Well, yes, I do. I do love neutrals because as a creative person, the neutrals help the silhouettes and the textures and the contrast of what I do stand out. I've never been a person who likes a lot of pattern, although I appreciate creative designers who use a lot of pattern. I mean, I think the pattern and the colors can be a great part of the interior experience. But for me, it's more about the form and the silhouette of objects that intrigue me the most. But, you know, I have clients, well, I am a neutralist. I have a lot of clients who do like color. So they'll come to me and they'll say, we know you like neutral, but we like red and we like yellow and we like blue. So what I do, and this is I'll give you my secret formula. So I love color too. So what I'll do is if someone says, I love blue, what I'll do is I will make the blue the neutral and I will treat it just like I treat white or gray or green. And what I'll do is I'll do the walls in blue. I'll do the upholstery in blue. I'll do the carpet and the accent fabrics in different textures of blue. So I make blue the neutral, because what will happen is, just as in the white room or the gray room, the silhouettes will stand out. There is a serenity, an experience about the space, regardless of what color it is. It's just how I use color to create the quote unquote neutral. But I'm also, I think, because personally, I'm somebody who likes to change things. Like we're in my home in Washington right now. I'm constantly pulling things out and experimenting as I'm doing products or whatever. And so the neutral palette has made it very easy for me to move things in or bring in, new artworks and, but that's kind of my personal thing. So I think, home is certainly a reflection. Residential interior should be a reflection of your client or yourself. So, I'm not, while I am a neutralist, I do love color, and I just find my way of, using it. So.
Okay. The second question is, your work is praised working by me, past and present. Would you mind sharing about the process when conceptualizing your piece?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay. Would you mind sharing your thought or process when conceptualizing your piece?
Sharing your thought process, Tom.
Oh,
Yes,
when creating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's my process when I'm creating a piece?
Yes.
Wow. Well, it all starts with my sketchbook. I love to draw. So I typically, and the nice thing, oh, look, there you go. So these are actually, thank you, Manuel. So these are actually, these were sketches from my sketchbook when I was working on the new collection for Baker. So these were actually done on an airplane. I was flying somewhere and I was just alone with the nice thing about being on an airplane is you're all to yourself and you have a moment to think. So, so this is kind of, I usually have a sketchbook for each collection, and it's just random sketches and thoughts. And, there could be hundreds of these in a sketchbook. And then once I, sort of review what I've done, it's sort of like, oh, wow, look at that, instant product. You know, so so literally things go. So what I do is I do my sketches, and then I work with the people in my studio, and we start to draw on CAD, and we start focusing on scale, and then we start looking at how the pieces relate to each other. And that is another difference about doing a collection. You have to, while you're designing one piece, you have to kind of keep the whole collection together in your mind, because pieces have to work together in scale, so, and finish, right? And kind of the essence of each piece should be relatable from piece to piece. So, and I think that's the hard part. Once I have my sketchbook and I could have 100 sketches, it's being a good editor and deciding which pieces am I going to develop and which pieces I'm going to let go. And also I keep those, I have in my library, I have all of my old sketchbooks, and sometimes I just go back and I just look at some of the pieces that I haven't done and, reconsider them. Or, it's kind of like my own little vault of creative flow. And so, but I think for designers, whether, we all have different levels of artistic ability, but I think you can, regardless of how artistic you may be with a pencil, I think sketching constantly is a great tool for any designer to, it's a way of taking all those ideas in your head and just putting them down on paper before they, slip out. So, so that's kind of my process. And the same, and that has always been my process since I started my business. So.
Okay, that is my last question.
Thank you, Tom. I just have
Thank
a
you.
very short question.
Okay.
Which piece in the collection has a particular unique story and hold a special place in your heart? Which piece in this?
Oh, well, that's hard. That's
Okay.
very hard. I think, you know what, every piece has a story. Every piece, it's kind of funny, even though it's a collection, each piece is handled individually. So, even like the table in front of you, the cocktail table, deciding on doing the form was one thing, and then, the idea, we had it set up, and then I had this idea of carving the marble in this sort of fan-like shape. Each piece evolved both in my head and in production. So they're my children. I don't have a favorite. They're all my favorite. Right.
Okay, very politically correct, very PC.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right, last question, I promise. Looking to the future, after crafting nearly 500 pieces for Baker McGuire, what aspirations do you hold for this collaboration?
I think that it's sort of like this long road ahead. My hope is that we continue to collaborate together, that as Baker evolves and as Tom Pheasant evolves, that we can keep creating and appealing to an international market and have moments like this. To me, this product design is like it's the icing on the cake for me as in my career. And I think the difference when I do my interiors, it involves all of the people in my office, contractors, clients, all of that, and it takes a lot of management and it takes a long time. The beauty for me personally in doing collections is it's a much more intimate experience. It's like I say, it's me with my sketchbook, and then I start engaging, fabricators and the Baker Group. But it's something very joyful for me, and it is like a parallel universe of creative, with my interiors being one level and the furniture. So I hope that I continue to be relevant and that I continue to be successful in my products in the future, and that I keep Baker happy and going strong.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, any more questions from the floor, from anybody? No? All right. Well, this year marks almost a decade of us working with Baker. Year after year, the company does their best to live by their ethos, which is gracious living. With Tom, Barbara, Laura, Jean-Louis, Orlando, and many more, it's a special company to work with. I hope you enjoyed tonight's chat with Tom. I hope you enjoy the new Baker space and the new collection by Thomas Pheasant, alongside with other notable designers from Baker. Ask myself or my team on anything that you need. So thank you, Emmanuel, and especially Jay and Tom, who have woken up so early in the morning to join us tonight. From the bottom of our heart, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Good luck to all the designers who joined us today.
All right.
Thank
If you don't mind, maybe we can take a pictures in front of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
All right, come on, everybody. You gotta stand here. You gotta stand here. All right, sini, berdiri sini. Well, look that way, not this way. Okay, look that way, look that way. Okay. All right. Yeah, look that way. Look to the camera, everybody, okay? Thank you. Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you all. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Great to see you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Emmanuel.
Thanks.
Bye. Yep.